I just want to make sure that we're actually live. I'm down to one screen here, so it's always find it hard to navigate going through what's live. Okay, yeah, we're live in the group. That's perfect. So happy Sunday, folks. I really kind of wanted to get back into these live streams because it's been a while since, I've actually hopped on here and done live streams. Life has been weird because obviously having a baby boy that's now 5 months old kind of threw a wrench into things. But hey, we're back here. I want to get back into live streams because I love just straight up sharing my thoughts with you guys, just getting straight to the point, developing these free resources to help you move forward with whether it's nutrition, recovery, or just overall health and wellness. Today I really kind of just want to dig into goals. So actually, first let me pull up the live stream on my phone. So if anyone has any questions, if anyone has any comments, or maybe even maybe my mic isn't working, you can't even hear me, so that way I get instant feedback, and if there's anything that you guys need to let me know, I'll see it here. So moving forward, before I actually get into today's topic, I think I'm going to be trying to do Sunday live streams. I've been kind of doing them, or in the past I've done them through the week, and they're hard for myself to do, but also I feel like not a lot of people can attend those because they might be in the middle of a work day or on lunch, and you're not always available to use those. Now, of course, they're always in the group, so you can always go back and watch them, but I feel like it's always good to do it live, and that way if you need to, if you have a question for me or anything like that, I'm here to answer the question. So either way, we'll try to keep doing those around this time on Sundays, and we'll see how that goes. So hopefully these are helpful for you guys. So today's topic is we're talking more on goals. All right. Today specifically, I want to talk about how we fail goals, and essentially what are a couple of the pitfalls that athletes run into when defining our goals, how we go about them, all that kind of stuff. So I really want to dig deep on that topic. I know almost probably by this point, most of you are fucking sick of hearing about goals. It's just one of those things that gets beaten to fucking death as we move into January, because everyone's talking about goals. Even the end of December, you kind of expected to, hey, what are your goals? Everyone's asking you. And we've kind of transitioned from this whole, what are your New Year's resolutions to what are your goals? And I don't know. I feel like you can almost get sick of them, right? So with this, I kind of just wanted to talk about a little bit deeper some of the things that we can do from a more of a logical perspective to make sure that if we are setting our goals, and maybe you're in a position that you haven't really thought too much about your goals, hopefully we can kind of talk through some of the things that you should avoid when thinking about your goals or even actually outlining them. So whether you've already set aside some goals or you haven't yet, don't worry. Either of those, you can still kind of take in this training and have some thoughts in here. But either way, we'll talk about goals, specifically some of the ways you're actually failing them, okay? So I find almost you have a vast range of people, or different ways that people talk about goals or think about goals. Some people put very minimal effort into it, and maybe they're not really goals or defined as goals. They're more like, hey, these are things that I want to do this year, right? And those can kind of fly as goals. Some people are really fucking intentional about their goals. I want to do X, Y, and Z this year. This is how I'm going to fucking do it. Both can actually be pretty successful, but of course, anytime that you can define your goals and be a little bit more specific, because a lot of the time we just have this idea in our head of what we want to do, and that's as far as it fucking goes, right? So I want to be a little bit more specific about those things. So we're going to dig in on the first way that we actually fail our goals. And the number one is that it's not measured or it's not measurable. All right. So measurable goals, if you know the whole SMART acronym, that's one of the big letters in there. Obviously, is the M is going to be measurable. Okay. Having a goal that's measurable allows you to watch for progress. When things are trending in the right direction. It's essentially a KPI, a key performance indicator, to let you know, am I on track? Am I not? Am I going in the fucking opposite direction? Right? If you're, just as an example, if you want to increase your deadlift, and then let's just say you're not measuring your deadlift. I don't know. I'm not sure that in a world where we would just be lifting weights but not know what we put on the bar, just have someone fucking load the bar for you. You're just I'm just going to lift heavy. If you didn't know what you were lifting, how would you know if you're actually getting stronger, you're lifting more, or possibly you're hey, this feels heavy, but maybe it's less than what you anticipated, right? If we're just going by feel, we can't really know. We're just end up shooting in the dark. So you almost, I'm not going to say you absolutely need, but it definitely helps to have some type of metric to be able to go on, to not just go by feel and think about, oh, how am I feeling about this? A metric won't lie, it'll tell you the truth, right? Sometimes they're not always that clear, because we can talk about metrics more so, but it's definitely something that's going to give you a lot more information, and it's going to point you to the truth about whether you're trending in the right direction or not. Okay, that is something that I find one people will get, I wouldn't say completely wrong, because some things aren't always measurable like that. We'll go through some examples, but I always kind of think of it as like it's a financial assistant that's going to use various metrics to manage your funds. You wouldn't want someone managing your funds with absolutely no metric, right? You're just going to say, hey, it looks good, it feels good. That's not helpful. Or if your CrossFit coach is going to use data to judge your fitness, right? They're not just going to say, hey, you look fit. I don't know any metrics about you, but you look fit, so we're just going to go with that. You look happy. Let's go with that. No, they're going to use something like your Fran time, your deadlift weight, your 5K time, all these different metrics to judge how fit you are. And this is usually the biggest way that people fail to actualize their goals, right? We either select goals that aren't measurable, so something like look better, feel better, be more confident, which I'll say right there, I'm not shitting on those types of goals. I'm just saying that they're not really measurable, which makes them a little bit more difficult, and just means you need to be more on top of them, right? But then we just have no objective way to measure that, right? Of course, look better. Okay, looking better is kind of subjective anyway, but you could take, progress photos and things like that, and usually you can objectively see differences. However, it's not quantifiable, which makes it hard. Feel better is also completely subjective, because you could, let's say, like, look better, feel better is something that you want to do, which I hear a lot of from athletes. If you want to feel better, sometimes just improving your diet, cutting out like the hyper palatable carbs, like chips, cookies, all that shit, that's going to make you feel better, and you might not actually have physical changes, you'll just feel better, right? Likewise, you could actually do the same, have a crazy body composition change, but maybe you still don't feel better because it was something up in your head. It's completely like a mental thing rather than anything else. So a lot of those things can be subjective, whereas if you have a metric, it a lot of times is not subjective, it's objective, right? So that's how we see progress. The second way we do is we also pick goals that are hard to measure, right? So something like put on muscle, that's one of the most common goals that I see people talk about. A lot of time, like, how the fuck do you measure that, right? Unless you have access to like a DEXA scan, in body, those kinds of things, which give you kind of a measurement of where you should be at, then okay. And even then, sometimes if you don't have those like at your gym, sometimes they charge, sometimes they don't, I'm not sure. They can be expensive to use. DEXA scan, I believe, can be expensive. Or something like me, I don't have access to any of those at all, because I live in a small town and nobody has those. So I have no real easy way to see how much muscle I put on. It's kind of subjective. That's the easiest way for me to look at it. Or for something like if you want to manage your blood glucose levels, it's like, okay, unless you have a blood glucose monitor or like a continuous blood glucose monitor, they're not easy to measure, right? Yeah, you can get a monitor, of course, but then that requires investment. So like if you're serious about it, yes. But in terms of just like, hey, I want to, manage my blood sugar levels by eating less sugar, we're not really sure what the impact is. And not saying that you can't measure it, it's just hard to fucking measure, right? So that kind of deters us from measuring in the first place, because we have to do this whole thing. Like right now, I'm on a big kick of just trying to measure my blood pressure. And that takes time, because you have to sit down for 5 minutes, start measuring, wait 5 minutes, do another measurement, wait 5 minutes, do another measurement, and then take the average of that to get an accurate picture. You can't just randomly test your blood pressure and it's going to be accurate. So to test my blood pressure twice a day is 20 minutes each time, right? That's fucking annoying. And that makes me not want to do it anymore. So that's why I'm just going to do it for this week and then stop. But a solution to all this is that we find a way to attach a metric to your goal, right? So you can set yourself up for success. I'll give you an example, and I'm not saying that this is the way that you absolutely have to do it. This is just how we do it over at Aegis Nutrition Academy. We have all our members measure their weight every single day on a scale. Don't kill me. I know that sounds crazy. It is crazy a little bit. But there's a reasoning behind it, okay? And here's why. It's an easy to take measurement. It takes 5 seconds to hop on a scale, right? It's available to everyone, so there's no need for like a DEXA or InBody. Those can be powerful too, of course. If you're consistent with nutrition, it's actually not that variable and pretty consistent. So like for a lot of people, if you have, I guess in the CrossFit space, you'll have kind of drastically variable workouts that maybe one day you're lifting heavy, the other days be like a long Metcon, maybe a long EMOM, something like that. So you're always kind of variable with your workouts. And possibly if you're not, unless you're carb cycling or if you're not tracking, you might have kind of variable nutrition that maybe not every day is the same. Then maybe variable sleep. The more variation there is in your day-to-day, the higher likelihood that your weight might be high one day, low one day, in the middle. It's going to be maybe all over the place, and you're likely going to fall into an average, right? Which is why we actually measure ourselves every single day, because we build 7 data points, which we take an average from, and we realize that no any given day is going to be your weight. It's just a data point. Your weight is the week average. So your average across 7 data points. But if you're consistent with nutrition, your day-to-day weight should stay relatively the same, right? Even maybe you can go as far as like, hey, if you have any wild anomalies with your weight where you jump up a couple of pounds or you drop a couple of pounds, you can kind of take those out because they're outside the average. But here's an example of like my weight through November to December 10th. It was probably within a pound, maybe 2 every single day, but the averages week over week went down, right? 179, 197, 195, 194. So again, I'm not saying that like your metric has to be a scale, but the thing about the scale is that it's really easy to do. Of course, it doesn't paint the whole picture, but just the ease in which you can measure something acts as some sort of indicator. Okay. So the real reason behind this whole thing is that we don't want to have goals that are super, super hard or annoying to measure, because that just puts more weight or more pressure on you not measuring and then not following up on your goals. Plus, if you have something that's not measurable, it's really hard to determine if you're having progress. So again, I'm not shitting on like something that just wants to look better or feel better. I would just challenge you to find ways in which you can tie a metric to that in any way possible, because then you can actually make it objective, right? So number 2, your goal isn't well defined. So this is another one that I actually see a lot of. So a good example of this is just the statement, I want to get stronger. Plus, who doesn't want to get stronger? But the problem is, I always ask the question, like, what does that mean to you, right? What do you mean by saying that I want to get stronger? Because I feel like with a lot of athletes, it might differ what they mean by strength. I feel like we have probably a pretty consistent idea of what strength is. It's just like essentially force production in raw numbers. So how much weight you can literally move, and not even on a small amount of time, like power, but just, in a single instance. A lot of the time it does tie to like one of the big 3 lifts, whether it's like, squatting, deadlifting, bench press, but sometimes it could be like weightlifting. So it might be a little bit more like power type stuff. But I like to define it, because if you mean that you want to get stronger in your clean and jerk, is that what you want to measure? Or do you want to measure your squat? And this kind of ties back to number 1, because you have to kind of tie a metric to it, and that becomes a more defined goal. So if you want to get stronger, it's like, what does that mean, right? You have to be a little bit more specific and define your goal to make it very clear. So like, I always ask myself the question, what does this mean to you in this exact context, and what are you trying to improve? I'll even include it here specifically. I can't even spell. Specifically. So a better, more defined goal would be, I want to improve my deadlift, or if you want to get a little bit more specific, I want to deadlift 315 pounds by July 1 of 2024. So that's a very specific and defined goal, because you're classifying your strength as a specific lift of deadlift, right? Now, of course, you could kind of expand that to say, I want to improve my strength by all lifts, but then maybe you'd have to incorporate a metric like a percentage. So I want to increase my CrossFit total by 10%. So whether that happens in the squat, the deadlift, or the press, you don't really care. You just want to see your numbers go up overall. But again, you have to define that, because I want to get stronger. Like, what does that mean? It doesn't really mean anything, because you're not being specific about anything, right? Strength can come in all different forms, especially for different people. So I always just say, like, be very clear about what you want to do when it comes to your goals, and define it very well, as if you're talking to someone that's not in the space. If you tell me you want to get stronger, I probably have a pretty fucking good idea of what you're talking about. But again, I don't like to assume things, because anytime I give the advice of someone that like wants to get stronger, hey, what should you do nutritionally? I don't want to give advice if you totally mean something different, right? So the solution to this is just play devil's advocate with your goals and ask yourself, like, what do you mean by that? Try to define it in the most clear terms and be a little bit more specific about it. Okay. I hope my live stream didn't drop. I just got kicked out. No, we're still here. Cool. All right. So number 3, desire isn't enough. Want versus will. So this is kind of like, it gets a little bit more into the hooey aspect of goal setting and mindset, which I love sometimes, because it just, I don't know, I love talking shop and getting deep into that stuff. I feel like I could almost host a podcast on that, because I could talk about it all freaking day. But I've been really reading a really good book on this as well, the whole want versus will thing. Believe it's called what is it? Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet-David, and he has a whole section on want versus will, which is pretty cool. It's not in the context of goal setting, it's more so in the context of business, the business world, but he relates it to his kids as well, and it's kind of powerful. So anyway, a good example of this is saying that I want to, right? So if you were to relate that back to the stronger thing, I want to get stronger, you're saying I want to, which is a little bit weird, because it doesn't really give you a commitment to that, okay? So want and will are not the same thing. They paint two completely different pictures of the situation. So I actually have 2 examples here. So the first example is a CrossFitter, Emily. This is not a real person, but let's say this happens. She comes up to me and says, "Hey coach, wanted to get your feedback on something. I have been feeling a little off lately, and I think I want to lose 10 or 15 pounds. It's not like a major deal or anything, but I think I would feel better. What should I do?" So she's seeking some nutritional advice, or some advice around losing some weight, but she's not really sure what to do. But immediately, if I were to hear that, I pick up on a couple important words. I hear, I think, I want, not a major deal. I think if I did. These are kind of like weird qualifiers that I hear. Is like, hey, you sound so totally unsure of that this is actually what you want to do, that it doesn't even seem like a serious goal for you. You know, it's almost like maybe someone told you that you should do this, or maybe you thought about it a little bit but didn't really put that much thought into what you want to do. So I would 100% believe in the situation that she's not totally serious about this. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying that, hey, you should probably spend a little bit more time thinking about this goal and be a little bit more serious about, is this actually what you want to do? But a lot of the times this doesn't even happen unintentionally. What happens is that you're either one, afraid of failure, so you don't say I will do this, because, hey, what happens if I fail? I said I will and then I failed. Like, that's indicative of failure. I don't want to do that. Or you're afraid of having to commit to success, or you're afraid of success. So in the example of like losing weight, if you commit to losing 15 pounds, maybe you're thinking either consciously or subconsciously that, okay, once I'm there, then I have to maintain that. I've been unable to do that in the past. I'll have to cut out all the my favorite things in my diet. It's going to suck. I don't want to do that subconsciously. So I'm just going to say, I think I want to, you know, it's something I kind of want to do, but you're not really committing. You're not saying I will do this. You're saying I want to. So we'll compare that to the second scenario, in which Karen, another CrossFit athlete, comes to me and says, "Hey coach, I hope this isn't too much all at once, but I wanted to be honest about something. I've been feeling like shit lately, and I realize many of my habits outside of the gym are affecting my performance, and I just don't feel good. So I decided that I need to lose 15 pounds. I spoke to my doctor, and she said my blood work has been a little off, so I need to make a change. I will clean up my diet and move a bit more, but I need your help." So do you see the difference in there, right? You hear, I will. You hear, I need your help. You hear, I realized, I decided. These are all like super definitive qualifiers of saying, something happened, I made a decision, and this is the thing going forward. Maybe I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to get there, but I've decided that a change needs to happen. So there's like a little bit of a difference between the seriousness of the goals, and not saying that, hey, you know, the first athlete, Emily, that her goals aren't serious. They definitely can be, but there needs to be more thought put into it to understand that your whole mindset behind it is essentially set up for failure, because you're giving yourself an out, right? So replace your verbiage. Don't use words like I'm going to or I want to. You have to say you will, right? And I say here, insert Shia LaBeouf's Just Do It. Like, just do it. It also totally okay to have some desires to loosely shoot for. Like, hey, if you kind of want to do something, but it should almost be like a bonus goal, not like a definitive goal. So maybe your bonus goal would be like, I want to have visible abs, but your real goal is like, I want to lose 20 pounds. So I want to lose 20 pounds. If I could have visible abs, that would be fucking awesome. But if not, I'm totally happy with the 20 pounds. So if you really want to achieve something, you will need to commit. You can't be afraid of failure, and you can't be afraid of success. All right. Number 4, try to go through these a little bit faster because I'm dragging on here. If there's no pain, there's no motivation. All right. Pain is absolutely the biggest motivator. I give the example here of like Matt Fraser, you know, the 5-time champ, CrossFit GOAT. I say debatable here because maybe any Rich Frontier, T. Claire fanboys or girls are going to be like, no, Matt Fraser is not the GOAT. But do you think that he only used the desire to win? Like, hey, I'm going to be the best, and that's it. Like, it's all sunshine and rainbows? No. He had a huge fear of losing, right? Not that he also thought about winning. He probably did. But likely he used both types of motivation to keep him locked in for that long. Especially when you become champion, when you become the best. It's not just, hell, I'm just going to do the same thing again. No, it's fear of losing that probably kept him locked in for a long time. So I always kind of resonate with this statement, and that as humans, we are predisposed to negative emotion, and we will go through great lengths to avoid pain way more than we strive to seek pleasure. Okay? Sometimes both, they can happen simultaneously because we can both seek pleasure and, you know, avoid pain. But pain avoidance is one of the strongest forces there. All right. So I always kind of bring it back to asking why you're going for your goal. So if you have a specific goal, kind of ask yourself why that's something you want to do. If you want to get stronger, why is that something you want to do? Well, just strong sounds cool. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't really seem like it's that important to you then. However, so I give an example here. Let's just dig into that. So I want to lose 15 pounds. It's a common thing I hear from most athletes, right? Just want to tone up a little bit, feel better, look better. I want to lose 15 pounds. Okay, why? I just want to look better. Okay, what does like that is about as shallow a goal as you can, because it doesn't really mean anything, right? Everyone wants to look better to some degree, whether it's through body weight or how they present themselves. We want to look better, right? But that'll only get you so far because it's a very shallow goal. In comparison to if, let's say we have the same goal, I want to lose 15 pounds. Why? Because I've began to put on weight and I'm afraid if I don't do something about it, it could get worse, right? It's like, okay, that sounds better. Or maybe even something like, hey, I've become a grandparent or I've become a parent and I'm afraid I'm going to be a frail old dad or mom or parent. So I want to really do something about it. It's like, okay, that's a real good fucking reason to do it. And that avoidance of emotional, physical pain is going to send you so far, right? More so than I just want to look better because look better sounds good. Now, of course, this could also be a little bit deeper, saying that maybe you want to look better for your spouse because, you know, the relationship's not the best, something like that. Okay, but point being is that the deeper your why and the more pain you have associated with your goals, the more likely you are to get there. Okay. Number 5, you're spread too thin. I feel like this is probably one of the most common ones that people struggle with. It's just like you have too much going on and you're trying to do everything, right? A good example that I hear about is that you want to build strength and lose weight. Okay, so it's not terrible goal. A lot of the times with CrossFitters, we kind of want to do everything, right? We want to build skill, we want to get fitter, we want to get stronger, but we also want to get lighter, build muscle. Like all these things are kind of like they're generalist tendencies, but they also kind of are antagonistic or opposing each other, right? So a lot of the time, if you lay these out, you can kind of see whether they match up or not. So goal 1, build to like a 315 deadlift. Goal 2, run a marathon. Goal 3, read 70 books this year. It's like, okay, first off, deadlift and run a marathon absolutely can be done in the same year. Obviously depends on your fitness, but they're antagonistic for each other, right? Building strength and running a marathon don't really have that much in common because they're kind of opposite skills. Having the metabolic health and the endurance to run a marathon is not the same as having the strength and power to deadlift. But then you throw in something like read 70 books this year. It's like, okay, all of these are totally possible, but we have to realize that, you know, let's just say that you want to, if you're serious about your deadlift, you want to add 3 to 4 strength training sessions a week, which is 90 minutes each. That's 4.5 hours per week. You want to run 2 or 3 times a week because you got to train for the marathon. That's 20 to 60 minutes a training session. So let's say 2 hours a week that you want to run for, and then 30 minutes a day of reading because you have to finish those 70 books, 3.5 hours a week. So just there, you added 10 hours per week of work that you need to do to hit your goals. Not only that, but 2 of them are antagonistic to each other and that they're getting in each other's way. So that sounds fine if you're someone that has a lot of fucking time on your hands. But if you're someone that has kids, you have hobbies, you have a job, you have a part-time job, you have a side gig, you have a relationship that you need to maintain, you have sleep that you want to do. Like, all of these things add up, and you might realize that you're spreading yourself way too thin across too many different things, that you're not actually going to make meaningful progress towards any of them. That is something that I deal with, right? Because full-time job, business, kid, wife, all these things that kind of go on, and it's just like, okay, I end up spreading myself too thin, and I can't really have specific goals towards any of them sometimes, and more about, I need to keep all these things going. That's how that works. Now, you just need to realize that the more thinly you're spread, the harder it's going to be to maintain those. If your one goal was to, like, I want to get strong as fuck, I want to deadlift, I'm going to squat heavy, I'm going to press heavy, those are actually aligned with each other, and they can be kind of done together in terms of one training session. So they're not like antagonistic to each other, and they're not spread across the whole week. Way easier to do. So I always say, when it comes to trying to spread yourself or not trying to spread yourself too thin, look at your current situation at home and at work. Are you already busy? Are you strapped for time? If so, like, it may be best to not have goals that are antagonistic to each other. So, okay, you're already low on time. How about let's save the marathon for another time, if that's something that you need to heavily dedicate training to. Or maybe we'll scratch the strength, right? Pick one that you're going to actually nail and possibly have like sub goals for those. And then 6, the actions are not matched with your goals. So probably one of the biggest statements that resonated with me last year was this: you are what you do, right? Another way you could think about it is that your body responds to the stimulus that's placed upon it, right? So you're going to have to actually do the thing that is moving forward towards your goals. You can't just set the goal and then not do it. You have to actually do these things. So a common example for CrossFitters is that you want to get strong and build muscle. Super common thing that CrossFitters want to do. But you spend the primary time during your week in your workouts is doing Metcons. So you're doing box jumps, you're doing burpees, things like that. Now, if you've been doing CrossFit, if you're new to CrossFit, you can absolutely build muscle doing these things. But we know, after we've done it for a couple of years, this is more of like a metabolic conditioning type workout. And if you spend all your week doing Metcons, but you want to get strong, there's a disconnect there, right? I sometimes say, if someone wants to really get strong and build muscle, you should probably do less CrossFit, do more strength training, as an example. So, not that it can't be done, it's just they don't really match up that well. You can, of course, build muscle by doing box jumps and burpees, but you're not going to be maximizing hypertrophy and strength by doing box jumps and bodyweight exercises, right? You want to be moving load, you want to be doing progressive overload, you want to be squatting more, deadlifting more, not just once every 2 weeks. So what you say and what you do are two different things. Your body will respond physiologically to the most frequent stimulus. If all you do is burpees and box jumps and jump rope, you won't build strength. So it's not always easy to ensure our actions are 100% linked to our goals. We can't always follow the program. We can't always show up. Sometimes, hey, we're busy, although my goal is strength. I'd like to get a workout in today, otherwise I won't be able to, so I'm going to go do CrossFit. But the key is to identify when your actions are working against your goals. Yeah. So the solution with this is take the time to think about the actions you're doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Ask, are they actively helping you reach your goals? Are they doing the opposite? Look at it objectively and then make a decision. So it kind of also goes in line with being spreading too thin and having antagonistic goals, is that the actions that you do on a daily basis have to match up with your goals, right? If you want to be stronger, maybe less CrossFit's the answer. If you want to be fitter, maybe we have to do more CrossFit. Maybe it's a nutrition related, but what you do on a daily basis has to match up. And you can't just have this goal that, frankly speaking, what ends up happening in January or in December, you set the goal, the open comes, you realize, hey, shit, this year I couldn't do a pull-up, that sucked. I want to do a pull-up for next year. Then June comes and you did no work. You haven't carved out how to do a pull-up yet. You haven't doing any actions or working towards it. Then you forget about it because it's summer, and then all the way around through the year, you come up to the next year's open, you go, oh, I still can't do a pull-up, because you never actually trained doing the pull-up. You kind of just been doing CrossFit, box jumps, burpees, all those things, but you haven't been training your pull-up. So you actually have to do the thing and not just do other things. A lot of the time we just go towards the shiny thing, and that's it. But anyway, that's it. So I feel like I could go down such a rabbit hole with a lot of these things, but either way, hopefully this live training was a little bit helpful. I hope to continue to do these coffee fueled Sunday training sessions. I just love doing lives where I can just dive in on a topic and get a little bit more resources for you guys. So this is a 10-page document that I can send out to you guys. I'm going to review this and drop it later for you this week in the group. And yeah, if you have any questions on this, feel free to shoot me a message, comment on this video, whatever. Watch out for this document because I'll be dropping this resource specifically probably like Tuesday, Wednesday in the group. Just want to add a couple of things, shore up some aspects of this, and that's pretty much it. So those are the 6 pitfalls that have been halting you from your goals. If you have any questions about goals, I'm going to be doing a little bit more throughout the month of January surrounding goals. How to set a vision, specifically how to set goals. So if you actually haven't set your goals yet, don't worry, don't stress. If you just want to hop in here every Sunday, shoot shit with me for an hour, we can actually work through hitting your goals. And maybe if you're interested, this is totally just off the cuff here, I haven't thought about this, just kind of came to my mind. If anyone would be interested in like a workshop of like, hey, this is how you set your goals, and then maybe we can actually literally, instead of doing a live, jump on a Zoom call and like work through setting goals for like an hour and a half or something like that, I'd be totally down for that. Just let me know if that would actually be useful to you, because obviously I'm not going to do that for nobody, but if something like that would be helpful for you guys, just let me know. We can absolutely kind of do up a workshop, open it up to anybody that wants to set specific goals, and that way we can all jump in a room, ask questions, talk it out, that kind of thing. So what's up, Elizabeth? Great way to start the Sunday. Yeah, fuck yeah. I like starting the Sunday this way too, because even if this is not specifically for me, I love doing this stuff. I spent Saturday writing this. I get to sit here, have coffee, talk shit, and share my opinions. So that's the beauty of the internet. Either way, yeah. If you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, we'll call her there. So I'll see you guys during the week or next Sunday. Later.